Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have just committed fraud. The most amazing example of fakery. Has there ever been a more vacuous, self-serving and hypocritical so-called royal tour than the one that Harry and Meghan Markle just orchestrated in New York? I'd say it's also embarrassing, but I think Meghan Markle is so shameless that embarrassment is something I doubt she'd ever feel. Prince Harry, though, he does know what a royal tour is, a real royal tour, so he should feel shame for taking part in this fake one. In fact, I wonder why he was even there. Because it was Harry who only recently declared that he never wanted to be treated like a royal.
I always wanted to be normal, as opposed to Prince Harry just being Harry.
But Meghan Markle, well, she obviously very much wants to play the royal now that she's married her prince and snatched him away from his real duties. And so off they went to New York, this couple, with a cameraman in tow, apparently to film it all for their Netflix documentary, with Harry, or should we say just call me Harry, also clearly wired for sound. So it's all coming to a Netflix doco soon. Subscribe to View, because Netflix paid millions for Harry and Meghan to play the royal, and they've got to get some return for this investment, don't they? And Meghan was obviously dressed for the cameras, wearing one costume in the morning of day one and another for the afternoon of day one, to get maximum coverage in the fashion magazines, which of course lapped it all up. Now this whole 3-day trip was orchestrated to mimic a royal tour, with security, the media pool roped off, plus all the usual vacuous meetings with dignitaries, so-called, to exchange platitudes and offer the royal encouragement, the pat on the head as they posed for the cameras. And Harry and Meghan, of course, soulfully stared at a wreath for the 9/11 dead and hugged students at a poor school to demonstrate their Netflix brand of compassion. Now, unfortunately, of course, Harry and Meghan did have to settle for stand-in dignitaries on their tour because, well, let's face it, they're basically fakes and most people have better things to do with their time, real dignitaries. So the best that they could get to be their extras for their face-to-face meetings in this grotesque vanity exercise were Chelsea Clinton, daughter of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Then there was the mayor of New York, who's always up for a bit of publicity given what he's done to his city, and the US ambassador to the United Nations, who later tweeted that she'd had an important discussion with them, an important discussion on the virus and racial justice and mental health. I've got to ask, in what way was this discussion important? I mean, I can guess what they said. It's the usual, tick a box, virus, bad, racism, bad. But how was this discussion an important one? I mean, did it change the ambassador's mind? Did it change US policy? Was it so good that we now read what they actually said? It changed minds around the world. I mean, rubbish. None of that. It seems to me what the ambassador really meant was they felt important, self-important, sitting on the couch, exchanging slogans as the cameras clicked. Now, if you think I'm too hard, I have to say that this tour was not just full of empty gestures, but hypocrisy. For instance, one stop on this tour, this royal tour, was to allow Meghan Markle to read a book to students. And not just any book, it was her own book, with Harry again relegated to being an extra, sitting among the kids, an extra in his wife's grand ambitions. Now, of course, reading her own book is going to help her book sales, but the hypocrisy here is that Markle says her book was written as a tribute to fathers, which is rich, since she's disowned her own father and helped estrange Harry from his. But more hypocrisy. These Hollywood royals, these runaway royals, then went to a big global citizens event, a concert, to show off Meghan's Versace miniskirt and to speak more platitudes about fighting the virus.
Look at all of us here, 60,000 strong, together in New York City! 'Cause 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 'c Are we prepared to do what's necessary to end this pandemic?
Now, if you thought the cheers there were muted, that's because maybe the crowd got a bit embarrassed. They knew this was a bit of a fraud because Harry was talking to a crowd that actually didn't seem that committed to social distancing. And then at the end of this made-for-television fake royal tour, Harry and Meghan, who I should remind you are also big global warming warriors, actually flew home in a private jet to be welcomed on the tarmac by grateful fans who are actually their own employees. Such monstrous egotism. A couple playing in a sort of American version of the royals without, of course, any of the real hard royal duties. The sense of giving back to something bigger than themselves. In their world, is there anything bigger than themselves? Harry once said that he felt trapped as a royal, but at least back then he was a real one, performing real duties, to do real good, in a cause that was bigger than himself. Now, what a tragedy. He's a fake, performing fake duties, to do a mere show of good, in a cause that's no bigger than his wife's vanity. It's all so woke and so sad.